Hello, thank you for joining me for my little series Q and Alice. The question today comes from Alicia, who asked me, should I get my hormones checked after a miscarriage? Is it worth seeing a specialist? So first of all, I'd like to thank Alicia for her question, and I am very sorry to hear that you've had a miscarriage. A miscarriage, unfortunately, can be a common event. It is more common than most of us realize because we don't talk about it as much as other gynecological conditions like endometriosis or polycystic ovarian syndrome. So a miscarriage in some women may have profound effects on a system both physically and emotionally. As Alicia has asked about hormone testing, I will concentrate my time today on the physical effects of miscarriage, specifically to the gynecological system. Now, after miscarriage, it is common to see a disruption of the usual regular cycles, if you did have regular cycles before the miscarriage. When I look at working up a woman after miscarriage, we can look at the situation from two main points of view. One, are the ovaries recovered, so they've gone back to releasing an egg or ovulating each month, if that's what they were doing before they fell pregnant? And two, is the uterus empty and ready for another pregnancy in the future? So hormones after miscarriage is very useful in working out if the woman is ovulating from the ovaries. It is not very useful if we're trying to work out how long it's going to take the ovaries to recover. And the clue to whether the ovaries have recovered with regards to ovulating function is the regularity of the periods. If you used to have regular monthly periods before you fell pregnant and you returned to regular monthly periods after your miscarriage, then I'm less concerned about your ovarian function. And therefore hormone testing in this instance may not be very helpful. If your periods have not returned within 6 weeks of your miscarriage or have not returned to your normal monthly cycles, then a hormonal workup would be very helpful to see what's happening with your ovaries. The other factor in your recovery after miscarriage is the uterus. What we want to know is that the uterus is empty and is ready for pregnancy sometime in the future. And the clue with that is bleeding. So if you have ongoing abnormal bleeding, then you should have further testing. And that calls to mind a patient I saw this year. Now, she had a natural miscarriage end of last year where she started bleeding about 7 weeks into her pregnancy. Now, at the time, her doctors treated her appropriately with conservative monitoring, assuming that it was just a natural miscarriage. For the following 3 months, she had ongoing off and on spotting every couple of weeks or so. And she did not have a return to her previously regular monthly periods. And that's when she came to see me. So I did organize some hormone bloods for her, just so that I know what's happening with the ovaries, to see if it's back to releasing an egg or ovulating each month. But because of her ongoing bleeding, I also organized an ultrasound. And 3.5 months after her presumed miscarriage, the ultrasound picked up the pregnancy inside her uterus. It was a pregnancy about 7 weeks old, showing signs of swelling, which tells us that the pregnancy ended at least quite a few weeks ago. It looks like even though she had a bleed end of last year, she didn't actually miscarry her pregnancy. Instead, her pregnancy remained inside her uterus and therefore she had ongoing bleeding. And I performed a suction curette to empty the uterus for her. Pleasingly, her first period came back about 5.5 weeks after curette, and since then has continued to have monthly periods. So to summarize, after a miscarriage, we like to know two things. We like to know that the ovaries are back to releasing an egg or ovulating each month, and that's where hormonal testing would be very helpful. And the clue to that is the regularity of your period if your period has returned within 6 weeks of your miscarriage. And the other thing we look at is your uterus. We want to know that it is empty and is ready for pregnancy sometime in the future. Hormone testing in that instance will not be very useful. We'll need a pelvic ultrasound to see. And the clue to that usually will be ongoing abnormal bleeding. In practical terms, if your period hasn't come back within 6 weeks of miscarriage or return to their regular monthly cycles after that, it would be sensible to go and see either your GP or a gynecologist and have your hormones and an ultrasound done depending on what's happening with your cycles. So I hope that answers your question, Alicia, and thank you very much for sending that question through. And thank you for listening. If you like my Q&A series, I would love to hear from you with your questions. So look out for my Instagram stories on weekends with Q boxes where you can send me your questions. Bye.